Have to do what brings us joy, and she's expensive. It's so mundane but so satisfying. Hi, I'm Jazz. Welcome back, or welcome if you're new. I have two businesses, Custom Bella Creations and Bella Meets Vinyl. This is a new print that is coming out soon. I'm already done with it. I want to finish. I'm going through and just cutting my little threads. It's so mundane but so satisfying. I try to keep the video separate just because I know it's different. You know, some people might be interested in vinyl and not particularly care for scrunchies, but you know, we have to do what brings us joy, and at the moment cutting these threads is bringing me joy. So if that means cutting this for 20 minutes before I spend 30 minutes or another hour working on my vinyl sign that I need to work on, then so be it, right? The good thing about being a business owner is that you can kind of do what you want, right? As long as what needs to get done in the moment gets done, whatever we can to do in between to kind of motivate us to do so, that's what I'm gonna do. This is the XL version of the scrunchie that I just showed you guys, and I love it. I am obsessed. She's super plush. I love it. Like, I just obsessed. Can't go wrong with an XL. You may hear beeping every now and then. You guys know that this space is shared. If you don't, you do now. One of the printers is beeping. I hope everything is okay with it. I definitely don't want to touch it. She's expensive. She's gonna be beeping. I don't know what's going on. Part of me wants to text the girl, but I don't have her number to reach out, and quite frankly I wouldn't want to touch it, so it's just gonna keep beeping, y'all. I'm going to be repurposing this existing sign. I'm going to go ahead and remove the existing vinyl off of this, and I'm going to cut the vinyl that will be replacing it. I'm going to move over to Canva. My go-to is the Instagram post just because it's a square. It's the easiest one, and since I use it often to make square Instagram posts, it's normally what I use to create designs. As you can see, it's up here as well for me, so I just click on that. So I have my camera roll. It's right here. Add to page. I'm going to make it as big as possible.
Okay. For some reason I thought it was transparent, but that's just because it's not on frame. Okay.
Could technically make it smaller in a different way, but it's fine. So I'm going to edit photo and do background remover. There isn't technically a background, and I should be able to do a transparent picture with the picture that I have, but just in case, better safe than sorry. Instead of contemplating it or being fearful that it's not gonna do it the first time around, I would just do it now so I don't have to do it multiple times. All right, I'm going to click that last option at the end, download, and then select transparent background. This will allow me to upload it into Cricut and have it up as a basic cut. If you use a solid image, it'll come up as a print and cut, and we don't want that. I do want to be able to cut out the image from the vinyl, so I will be downloading this. So back into Cricut, I am going to open up, I'm going to go to my current canvas. I will be uploading the image that's in my library, photo library. Here we go. That's the one I want. Now it's transparent, okay? That looks good. I'm literally put a 1, it doesn't matter. It's a cut. I'm going to size this down. I know these are 12 diameter wooden rounds, so I'm going to shape this or size this down to a width of 10. That way I get a roughly about an inch on either side. This logo is actually a good size, or it's a good design for the image, so I can make it as big as possible. So width, it's going to be a 10. And I do have the lock in place, so it should be fine. I will be using heat transfer vinyl for this because I do not have my permanent adhesive. So when I go to cut it, I'm going to flip this. I'm going to mirror this. You want to be very mindful of the products you're using to know what techniques you'll be using. You have to be mindful of the products that you're using and the techniques, right? What products for what techniques. When I made this sign originally, I used adhesive vinyl. This is permanent adhesive vinyl. While it is permanent, it will last on here a fairly long time without being touched or picked at. This can be removed, and I will be removing it. I will do an overhead so that you guys can see that. I'll probably be picking this or removing the existing vinyl while the other vinyl cuts, because two birds, one stone, right? That's why I'm here on the computer now. But as I mentioned, at the moment, I do not have black adhesive vinyl here. I have purple, white, lavender, a few other colors, but I don't think I have black. If I do, I honestly don't care to look for it, but I do know I have black HTV. So I'm gonna use my black HTV. You can use black HTV on wooden signs even after they've been painted. Frankly, I prefer the HTV than the permanent, because I feel like when you apply it with the heat, it just grabs onto the wood a little bit better. I don't know, I feel like that one extra step just kind of helps. What I do like about that as well is if you are using your heat press, when you apply the pressure and the heat, I feel like it does kind of it may straighten the wood a little bit too, because you know this wood is fairly thin, so it may warp from time to time. Again, I'm too busy chit-chatting. My screen went blank. I'm gonna go ahead and press my screen. So I've already mentioned I'm gonna be using HTV. I'm gonna kind of centralize it a little bit more. There isn't much I can do here with this like 2-inch space. I'd rather make sure everything cuts. I will be mirroring. I have an 8-inch here, right? This is 8 inches right here. So I'm gonna go ahead, pull out my HTV. I have a nice little bin here. Okay, this is my black HTV. As I've mentioned with you guys in previous videos, this is the cutter that I have. I love this cutter when it comes to vinyl. It has this nice little this piece here that kind of flips out, and it allows you to measure further. And I like to use this to measure my vinyl exactly. The less I need, the better. So I feed it through on this side. I'm gonna slide this up because that's the best way to cut with this. It's fairly old. The blade is old as well. It needs to get sharpened or replaced, and we're not gonna do that again. So here you can kind of see the numbers. So I said I need 8. I'm gonna go to 8. 8 is more than what is needed, so this gives me my wiggle room. And then what I like about this is that there's kind of like a groove here. You can kind of hear me hitting it with the scissors. So I line up the vinyl against that, okay? So I know I'm gonna have a perfect square every time. If I cut this vinyl with this as well, this should not be nice and square every time. Here's my board. It's still a little tacky. I do add adhesive to my mats every once in a while because I do clean them myself. As you can see, there's some gunk here, and that's fine. This is technically the top of it. You can use either side. I'm going to use this side because that's what's closest to me. When using HTV, you're going to always put the shiny side down. If you're having difficulties telling the difference, I personally like to flip it over. Pieces of vinyl there. I like to flip it over and compare them, right? You can see the shininess here. This is my matte side. This is actually a little messed up from when I placed it in my bin. But again, I did center the design, and there isn't much on the actual corners of it, so I'm sure that's going to be fine. I'm going to center this on here and put it down. Okay, this is a nice straight line. Again, we're straight here. This side is a little bit up. I know I did not probably use my cutter to cut this. I might have just freehanded that, and it's okay. Like I said, I don't have anything really close to this. If I'm not mistaken, my cutoff may have even been 7.5, so I have more than enough space. I'm gonna put that here for the time being. I'm gonna go back to my tablet. All right, I already have my iron or my mirror for iron on, right? It was off, it's on. I'm gonna go ahead and press next. And I'm just gonna use everyday iron on as my setting. I do have a new blade on my machine, so I don't need to do any hard or extra pressure like that. Everyday iron on. I am going to press the flashing arrows while I kind of push this slightly forward so it can get fed through the machine. There is nothing behind it, so we're good on that end. It's gonna read the size of my mat. and I'm gonna start working on removing the current vinyl on here. My play button is flashing, so it's ready to start cutting. So we're gonna head and do that. You can see here on my screen. I will be using my pin pen weeding tool for this. It's super sharp. I love it. If I'm not mistaken, I got this from 123 Vinyl. This is the second one that I've purchased. The first one that I got, my blade broke, like the pin broke. I had a colleague that was using it. She was helping me work on a project, and I don't know if she just pushed too hard or something went wrong, but the blade broke. On Amazon, they actually have replacement I guess pins, right? I have bought them, and this may be a replacement pin. I'm not quite sure, but I have used the replacement pins and I love them. As you see, I'm taking my pen and I'm just picking at the corners, okay? It's already lifted and you can just go ahead and peel. Just picking at the ends, trying not to mess up the paint, okay? As you can see, not all of it came up at once, and that's okay. We have some time to kill while the other vinyl is cutting. Okay, so I'm just picking at this to get it removed. That's gone. And you can actually see, I don't know if it was just dust or time, you can kind of see the remnants of where the sign used to be. I do have my sander here at the store from when I was working on another project. Prior to adding this new sign, like the new logo, excuse me, to this sign, I will sand this down and repaint it. I was hoping to kind of just reuse it as is, but because I can see the old layout, I don't want to do that, right? We want to do things the right way, make it look nice. So I will wait and do that tomorrow. But at least I know my sign, the logo, excuse me, I keep saying sign, the decal, the HTV will be ready to go once the paint has dried, okay? I'll see how it looks after I sand it. If I need to repaint it, I'll repaint it. If I can get away with it, if you know I don't take away too much paint when I sand it, then I might not. We'll see. Most likely I will end up repainting it. That way it gets, you know, a nice fresh coat of paint, and it's nice and a bright white. It was just spray paint, so I'm sure the coat isn't too thick either. My only concern now is finding said spray paint. But I'm sure it's somewhere. Outside of the whatever, this might even be adhesive, right? Outside of the adhesive, the color differentiation, right, between like where the letters were to where how the sign is now, it looks really good. You know, the sign is still good. It's nice and flat. It hasn't warped over time. So like I said, I will go ahead and sand this. I'll show you guys how I do that. This is done. I'm gonna go ahead and take it off the machine. I can see the design perfectly. It came out really nice. I'm excited. And as I said, I don't know if you guys can see the cut lines. Nothing was around here, nor was it down here like I mentioned. I am going to just pick up a corner that was already lifted. I personally like to weed on my mat because it makes things easier for me. To each his own, right? But I find it easier when the mat is transfixed to something. All right, I'm just gonna be tilting here and there just so I can see my cut lines. I'm going to just get the image up of the item here. Use the sharpness of the pen to make one, just so that there is some slight separation. I feel like it did not cut all the way through, and that might have been just the design itself. Again, I'm going to take my pen and just separate here, right? Cut into the vinyl itself. You can probably get a better result with like an X-Acto knife. I don't have one here at the moment, so I'm using what I have. Okay, I think there's another little gap. I'm gonna again just push against to make that space. I hope you guys can see. I'm sorry, I'm like leaning over it. I'm trying to see myself. And again, I'm just pushing here. I'm gonna push here as well. Try to get rid of some of this extra fabric and get that line that should have been cut that was not cut. I hope I'm making some type of sense. I'm just picking at the sign to kind of like lift up a little bit of fabric, or a little bit of vinyl, excuse me. That was a little quick fix, little hack there. Okay, an X-Acto knife would have been better. Again, I don't have one at the moment, so I'm using what I have. When you have the right tools, the job is easier, right? That's exactly what I mean. If I had my X-Acto knife, that would have been easier, maybe a little bit cleaner. But since I don't have it, I'm using what I have. There should have been a cut here that was not done. I'm going to try to cut with the pin, kind of just draw it out, right? Again, a knife would make this so much easier, but I do not have one. If you see me putting my finger down or my nail down, it's because the vinyl does stretch a little bit. So I'm trying to keep it in place while I work out the space that I'm trying to remove. Like, I don't want to stretch out the vinyl more than I need to, you know? And now I'm going to kind of sharpen this up with my pen. Again, I'm not sure why it cut this way. I want to say it may have been when the image itself got uploaded. It just didn't cut it as well as it should have, or it didn't, you know, read the transparency as well as it should have. Maybe a higher resolution image would have done better. Not quite sure, but with the sign being elevated fairly high up, I think these are okay. I've lifted it up off the transfer tape, and I want to make a very small cut here because I want to keep it clean for the E. Very small cuts, almost non-existent. And again, I hope you guys can kind of see what I'm doing. Ugh, I love fabric scissors, y'all. Look at that. Clean. Okay, so I'm happy. I'm getting rid of this. All right, now, as I mentioned, one of the reasons why I love using HTV, obviously I'm not gonna adhere this right now, but I can put this down, pick it up, put it down, pick it up, and it'll be exactly where I want it. It'll be aligned perfectly, okay, every single time. I could tape it down here, right, and then press, but because this is fairly adhesive, once I put it down, put the heat on it, that's it, it's not moving, it's not going anywhere. I'm not gonna do that now though. I'm gonna kind of put this to the side so that I can sand this down and then paint it. I got the smoothest sanding paper that I have, a P320. Again, I've already sanded this before when I did it originally. I just want to get a little bit of tack for the new paint to adhere properly, and just I want to get rid of the marks from the old vinyl, right? So I'm just going to do very light sanding. Okay. Ooh, she's smooth. Okay, you can still kind of see it a little bit. I hope it's picking up on the camera. But again, I'm gonna wet it a little bit, like get a wet paper towel and clean off the dust. Okay, so I've just finished sanding this. I cleaned this up. I sanded it for the last time I cleaned it up. I've placed it. I have here on the back like a sticky tape, kind of placing it where it needs to be, right? Actually, I think I do need to turn it because this, I just realized it's a little crooked. So that's this way. This is like my horizontal line. So I'm trying to make sure that I place this where it'll be straight on the actual wall as well. Going back and forth. All right. I think I'm happy with this. My press is already ready. I'm gonna go ahead and press it directly. Oh, I just turned it off. Nice pressure. And then I'll do the same thing on the other side. Move this over. I should not be doing this over my cutting board because it might warp it, but it's okay. Let me get my pressing pad. That might help some too with the pressure. Don't want it to warp any either. And there we go. Okay, let's see how that held up. Perfect. Okay, what do you guys think? I'm gonna go ahead and put it up on the wall now. And that's the sign adhered to the wall. It is connected with a L bracket, and then I put command strips on both sides on the L bracket and then on the board itself on the sign. That way any screws or anything wouldn't show through, but it is permanently fixed to the wall. Okay, and there you have it. A quick sign you can make for yourself. You can take it off of that if you need it. if, you know, like I removed mine and relocated to the front. The previous person removed theirs. From afar, it looks amazing. And I'll show you where I put my sign. You would have never known that it was up on the wall here. Okay, there's no holes or anything. The command strips hold fairly well. And there you have it. Nice, simple, easy DIY sign. You can do it yourself. You can get the rounds off of Amazon. Buy any type of wood from Home Depot, anything like that. Get some spray paint and some HTV.